Welcome back to Red Hawk Media. We're beginning a new unit, and today we're going to be looking at Flash. Flash is used for a variety of reasons, animation and web design, and to create movies, make different Flash players, Flash games. There's a lot of different purposes for it. It's widely used. It's pretty easy to get a hold of, and it's pretty affordable as well. So a lot of people like to use that. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the basics today. We're going to learn some of the tools and just some of how the timeline works, which is probably the most daunting part of the process. To begin with, go ahead and open up Flash if you haven't already. If it's not on your dock, drag it there. We're going to be working on this for the next couple weeks here. And in Flash, you'll notice a lot of similarities between Flash and Photoshop, which we previously used. And you'll actually see some similarities between this opening dialog box and Dreamweaver. This will pop up when you first open everything. We're going to create a new Flash document to begin with, and we're going to start off by creating a new ActionScript 3.0. So once we've got our ActionScript 3.0 created, this is our layout of Flash. There are a lot of similarities to the different programs that we've already worked on here. For instance, down at the bottom, we've got a layer palette. Now this layer palette is in some ways very similar to Photoshop, and in other ways it's a lot more than that. Because it's not just a layer palette, it's also a timeline. So you'll see frame by frame exactly what you're doing in any of your projects as you're creating them. So that gets a little bit confusing down here because you'll have multiple layers and a lot of different things going on in the timeline. Up above, this is our actual canvas or workspace. Okay, over here we've got our properties manager or panel. Okay, so you can see the different things going on. Currently I have a canvas that's 550 by 400. My project is at 24 frames per second, which doesn't mean a whole lot to us right now, but just know that it's kind of the standard that we're going to be working with for now. Over on the left-hand side, we've got all of our toolbars here. We've got our selection tool, we've got a special sub-selection tool, a lot of different things in here. Today we're only going to be using a couple of them. We'll keep it simple. Let's go ahead and get started here. We are on frame 1 of layer 1 right now. And to begin with, we're going to draw the classic stick person. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select the pencil tool and make sure that I've got black colors for both of these here. Okay, and I'm going to come over to the panel that opens up with the properties of the pencil tool. And I'm just going to adjust the stroke weight so it's a little bit easier to see and it's not so thin. So I'm going to just up that to 3.0. Then I come back to my canvas, and at this point what I can do is I can begin animating here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to have a stick person that's going to wave to us here. So to start with, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw his head. Draw his body. Legs. He's kind of a dwarf, I guess. And then we've got his arm. And we got his other arm. You can see my squiggly lines are kind of straightening out as I draw them. That is its automatic Snap to feature in Flash that kind of clears everything up and straightens it out for you. Okay, so I've got my first frame, no animation here. But I'm going to duplicate this frame, and then I'm going to begin animating it. So an easy way to duplicate a frame is just to push F6. And if you watch down here on our timeline, you're going to see all of a sudden that I'm going to have 2 frames down there. So now I got 2 frames. They're both exactly the same here. Now, on the second frame, this is where things get a little bit different. At the bottom, I'm going to click on something called an onion skin. An onion skin is a really slick feature that's going to show me where something was previously to where it is now. So if I look back to my frame 1, if it's different than frame 2, the onion skin will actually show me that. So I'm going to go ahead and click that on so that I can see what's happening here. And I'm going to grab the eraser tool, and I'm going to erase out his arm on this slide. And you can see it comes right back there, but it's kind of a faint gray. That's the onion skin. It's showing me the location of where his arm was, and now it's going to help me decide where his arm's going to be for the next slide. Or next frame, I should say. So now I've been animated in the next frame. I forgot to tell you, but we should duplicate the frame once and then do it one more time. On every other frame, we're actually going to do the animations, and that's a pretty good rate for the animation changes here. So on this new frame, I've still got my onion skin on here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my eraser tool again. I'm going to erase that arm out of there. I can see where it was. Grab my pencil tool again, and I'm going to draw in the new location to where it is. He's got a very stiff wave. It's kind of like a Miss America pageant. Okay, so I animate that in. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it twice, F6, F6, and on this next one, I'm going to go ahead and repeat the process here. So I grab the eraser tool, I erase that out, and now I draw in the new whereabouts of where I want the arm. Let's say right there, F6, F6. You can see this is kind of a tedious process for frame-by-frame animation. Go ahead and erase his arm out. Okay, pencil tool. And I'm going to draw on the next one here. Okay, F6, F6. And let's see here. Got my eraser tool. Erase that out of there. Onion skins are great. You can see where I've been. He's making a big wave on this one. F6, F6. Okay, so now, if we want to see exactly what we've got so far, watch the animation, see how it's running and everything, I've got a couple different things that I can do here. Actually, the easiest way to do this is just go ahead and push enter, and it's going to run through the animation. So right there, you can see his arm is going up, and it's coming back down to where I stopped in that last frame. So it's kind of waving a little bit here. Well, that's pretty cool. So if I wanted, I could start right back out with the process, have his arm going right back up so he can continue his waving. Now, eventually, I'm going to get into a situation where I'm going to want this arm to kind of loop if I'm going to have him waving for a while. So I could copy frames and paste them in again into the next portion. We'll get into that a little bit in the future. For now, we're going to keep it simple and just stick with the frame-by-frame animation. Now from here, our project for today is just a simple flipbook animation. You're going to get a stick person to do something. You can add in other elements if you want. On other layers if you want to get, if you've worked with Flash before, but the basic requirement for this to start with today is just 100 frames of animation. Okay, so if you want to keep track down here, all the frames are numbered out. That's going to take us all the way up to 100, which is up here. And that will be our Flash animation to start with. Okay, once you've got everything animated with your 100 frames, and you've tested it out by hitting enter or return to see how that plays exactly, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to publish it. So I go up to File, and I'm going to go ahead and go to Publish. Now, Publish is going to create a few things for me. It's going to create a file of an HTML file. It's going to create a movie file for me. So what I can do is I can go into the Publish settings, and I'm going to set this all up here. Okay, I want this to be a Flash SWF. Now what that's going to be is kind of like a movie that I'm going to be able to watch. Now I don't technically need the HTML. I have it checked on because I do a lot of stuff for the web page. But you can check that one off. You just need the Flash SWF file. Okay, now you want to choose the location of where it's actually going to publish to. And for now, our publishing is going to be really simple. We're just going to put it onto the desktop, and we're going to say, okay, stick person. Okay, let's actually say stick person 1. Okay, because that's going to be our beginning animation. Now, since you're saving this for my class, those of you that aren't in my class, you can do your own naming conventions here, but if you could just put your last name on here too. And then save it onto your desktop. And of course, ultimately, what we're going to do is drag this onto the server. I already have a folder for Flash created there. That's our beginning steps here to Flash and our opening tutorial to it in our new unit. Thank you for joining us. This has been Red Hawk Media. See you again.